life is very complicated. And it's getting more complicated all the time. And I've noticed this happening, and it's progressing, and it's getting worse as time goes on. Now, in terms of politics, I do watch a lot of politics on social media, and I take in a lot of stuff, as you may do. Now, one of the things that's most difficult is reasoning skills, understanding what we're looking at, because in an age of citizen journalism, it's very, very difficult to ascertain what's true, what isn't, what's being, hyperbolically pushed, the news cycle, and everything else. It's just so complicated. It's just a massive hot mess of everyone shouting a lot of the time. And even when you're talking to governments, like, for instance, at the moment, we're talking to the Labour government about grooming gangs, and there doesn't really seem like there's anybody coherently coming out and telling us what's going on with it. And this is just another example of the modern age. Now, I want to focus specifically on the decline of mainstream news. Now, a lot of you out there may not even watch the mainstream news. You may have, shredded up your BBC TV license a number of years ago, or just stopped paying it. And you may have just stopped watching the garbage that's generally pumped out. I know for myself, I can't even watch Channel 4 News. I used to at one point watch it periodically just to kind of see how far I'd moved away from what they were preaching, but more recently I literally just can't even watch it anymore because it's just full of absolute nonsense most of the time. Likewise, when you've got things that I used to watch, like Newsnight, who used to be seen as an official source of news, the Jeremy Paxman years, for instance. Then, at that point, you could watch Newsnight and then have a degree of impartiality. Not anymore. It's essentially a left-wing propaganda machine, and that's the way the BBC is going. But I did see something yesterday on X, and it was with the ex-Sky TV news presenter Adam Bolton, and I watched it, and I think this is a perfect example of what's happening to mainstream news outlets. And bearing in mind, Adam Bolton now works for The Times, and so this isn't like a shoddy newspaper. This is The Times. I mean, it's a reputable newspaper, and Times Radio should be a reputable arm of that. Anyway, I'll play this for you, and I'll let you draw your own conclusions.
They were careless people. They smashed up things and creatures, and they retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together, and let other people clean up the mess they had made. Well, I have to say, just the events of the last 24 hours and the behaviour of Donald Trump pretty much underline this. What we've got is a president who's been saying tariffs were his favourite word, who's now sending out his people to say that actually what he wants is a zero tariff world. And on top of that, he's not doing it himself. It's other people who have once again been insulated by the market manipulation. They've got their money back, but a lot of smaller people will have been very unnerved. And of course, a lot of the destruction which the Trump administration is going on, such as the destruction of USAID, the aid agency, is going to exactly that, smash up the lives of a lot of small people. I think Fitzgerald was onto something, and that the really interesting thing about him is that he did aspire to this lifestyle. He was desperate for money. He was desperate to live on the hog in the jazz age, and yet at the same time he could see the folly really of what he was doing. And of course, the other thing about The Great Gatsby is it's set in the 1920s, published in 1925. Guess what happened 4 years later? It was the Great Depression. The stock market boom turned to bust. The Dust Bowl came in, and Americans realized that the way that they had been living with racial and social inequality was extremely destructive to their society.
Now, it's hard to put into words, really, the absolute hogwash that was just put out there by Times Radio and Adam Bolton. I'm not sure if he'd had a few drinks before and he just kind of felt like doing a bit of a book review on company time, but just to pick up on a couple of things that he said there. And I think there was a lot of insulting stuff buried within that. And first of all, giving us the Scott Fitzgerald book analogy with the modern day. 1925's got nothing to do with today. It's totally different. And no doubt we are heading for a global economic recession at some point. Trump may push that along, he may not. Nobody's really ever going to know. But at some point we're heading for a global crash of some sorts. But that's been coming since 1971 for quite a few decades. So we can just discard that. I quite like these small people. So if you're a small person out there, you may have become unnerved. Of course, Big Adam Bolton understands everything that's going on. So he's not in that category. He's not in the small people would becoming unnerved. He's obviously part of the big people not becoming unnerved. But what he's essentially saying is, well, we're a news outlet, and ever since Trump brought these tariffs in, what we've been doing is we've been relentlessly banging a drum about it and scaring the pants off you. And now that it's all over, I hope you don't feel unnerved by what we've done, because obviously we would never gaslight you and we would never go on and on and on about a load of rubbish. And as I've previously said, this tariffs thing, just ignore it. It's just hyperbolic rubbish being pumped out by these news sources who know nothing, if anything, about economics. Then I quite liked his US aid, where he starts talking about it ruining the lives of people. And this is one of my major problems with news outlets generally. What Adam Bolton is talking about here, he's talking about something that's happening thousands of miles away. So US aid and Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they've went in there with a hatchet and they're cutting US aid for all of the stuff that's going on. But, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret here, that's happening in America, and so it's not happening here. And this internationalist rubbish that Adam Bolton's pumping out here, trying to explain to everyone that, well, because Donald Trump's this, he's ruining everyone's life. So the question that I would ask you is, has he ruined your life? Has your life changed 1%? Has it changed 1/10%? And I would guess the answer to that is no. I've never received funding from USAID. I wonder if you have. If you have, you put it in the comments there and let me know about when you've received it. But to be honest, I don't think many people out there have received a penny from USAID. And the reason for that is because we're not on the list of people that get free money from the American state. All of the politicians do that. All of the charities in America do that. All of the 200-year-old people that are apparently on this ghost-like payroll tend to do that. And that's funneled into black ops organisations around the globe. You know how it goes from there. But I just think that, jokes aside, looking at that, this is the quality of a mainstream news outlet. Somebody of the Times, I mean, we're talking about the Times newspaper who started their own radio, and they're pumping this out on X. And it just goes to show that all of the legacy brands, all of the old news organisations, they're getting to the point now where they're not worth watching, even on social media, even on, the bleeding edge of where they present stuff to you. It's just activist, left-wing rubbish a lot of the time, and I think this Adam Bolton here is the perfect example of why we should be switching Times Radio off and going for an alternative news source. But again, that's up to you where you do that. Thanks very much for your time.